Hi, my loves. Before this episode starts, I do want to give a content warning about abuse, namely child abuse, domestic violence, and just violence in general. Any of those themes aren't okay for you to hear right now. Please take care of yourself, and we'll see you at the next episode. Hi, babies. I'm Chloe from the ReiQueer.com, and welcome back to the ReiQueer Pod. This is episode 3, and I am super excited to be back in front of the mic, where I belong. Creating this podcast so far has been a super fun journey for me and pretty refreshing because, to be honest, it's been quite some time since I've created something solely for the purpose of just creating. I feel like I've been in hustle mode, I've been in survival mode, and so every move that I made had to be very strategic in how to advance my career or funnel income, just to make sure, I can stay alive and avoid the dreaded 9 to 5. So it feels really good to actually put creative energy into something with the sole purpose of connecting with other people. And whether I get 5 listeners or 500, I'll be so grateful because that's 5 people that chose their time, their energy to listen and be present for my creation. So I hope this continues to be a space where we can chop it up, we can kiki a little bit, and we can really get into the weeds of what it means to be human, what it means to work in wellness and have these life lessons. Remember, if you haven't already, I have 2 other episodes uploaded, and I also write an accompanying blog piece per episode, which you can find at www.thereiqueer.com/blog. If you'd like to check out my other episodes, I have videos uploaded on YouTube if you want to see my outfits. Otherwise, you can check out the audio on podcast platforms like Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So today's episode is a pretty juicy one. This is a story time, and I'm going to be talking all about the summer of my spiritual attack, which is just as wonky as it sounds. So to provide a little bit of context, this would be summer 2021. So we still are in the COVID era. However, it was right after the quarantine period, and I was at home. I was living with my best friend T. We just got our baby, our little kitty Tobias. I was in a new relationship, my first healthy relationship. So there was all these really lovely, generative, gorgeous things happening. Concurrently, place that we were living, we had neighbors that were just really, really, really hard to live beside. I mean, these people were extremely abusive to their children. They had 2 babies under the age of 4, both of which were special needs. The dad was extremely abusive in every way you can imagine to the mom. The mom was then very abusive to the children, and we shared a wall, so we heard everything. It wasn't long before they started to attack us. We felt like we had to defend ourselves. There was some good old hate criming happening, and it was just a lot. Thankfully, things never escalated. However, they escalated enough to the point where we unfortunately had to get the state involved a couple of times, and it was just a pretty f***ed up situation. Not only was that hard to live beside for obvious reasons, but it was also very energetically challenging for my friend and I. We felt like it was like leaching, the energy was like leaching under the door, through the walls, and it created a very sad environment. But it was weird because we had this like little piece of paradise in our home where we were so joyous and expressive and loving, and then it was juxtaposed to sharing a wall with those people, and it was just a really sad situation. So that was a little bit of the context of what was happening. Because of that, there were a lot of energetic implications. We really felt the energy a lot, and it was a challenge to make sure that we were staying not necessarily positive, but that we were staying true enough to our own joy so that wouldn't overcome us. But it was a struggle, let's just say that. I give this context because I do think it's pretty relevant to the attack and what ends up happening, and just to kind of give you a lay of the land of what was happening. I do want to emphasize, though, that this was a very lovely, beautiful period in my life, and I was surrounded by so much love. I seriously have the best friends ever, and quarantine summer was actually a very lovely summer for us. We got to really connect to each other and the land, and we were like biking everywhere, and so following summer, we were really kind of fresh off of that energy, and it did feel very beautiful, but the bleakness of reality and the deaths and everything that was happening around us was impossible to ignore, and we didn't want to either. I want to get into what actually happened. I want to kind of lay this out in stages so I can take y'all with me on the journey, starting with the context, which I feel is foundational to know up until what actually happened, my theories on it, etc. I'm going to take you back for a sec to January 2020, New Year, January 2020. I was very, very, very sick that day. I was so sick. My friends and I have a tradition where we do hallucinogens every New Year. And so I was on a 3-letter mood enhancer, which to be honest is really not my favorite substance at all. But, we were trying it out. And I was also very, very sick. Needless to say, it was still a really, 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 really fun New Year's. However, I couldn't shake this feeling. There was this looming feeling. And I literally remember turning to my best friend and I was like, a lot of people are going to die this year. I could just feel it. I could smell it. I could taste it, like all of my senses. I was on edge. Something horrible was about to happen. And I'm like, Happy New Year, T. A lot of people are going to die this year. I just knew it. I just felt it. Obviously, a few months later is when COVID would have been announced, and we all know what happened subsequently and currently after that. So I was kind of on the money with that premonition. I bring this up though because this is where things kind of started to take a turn for me subconsciously. I started to be able to pick up on certain subtleties, not only in my own life, but just kind of how the air felt, how the world felt, how the communities at large felt. And I started to get pretty freaked out, honestly. And I feel as though this really set the stage for my subconscious to even be open to what would happen next. Fast forward back to when the attack, so to speak, actually happened, which was summer 2021. So I started noticing a pattern in my dreams. It was terrifying. Essentially, that pocket of time in between where you're being pursued, you're being chased, you're being hunted, and you have a little space of time because the people that are coming to hurt you haven't actually arrived where you are yet. So it would be like we got tipped off that someone was coming, someone's on the way to the house, they're driving over to come kidnap us or take us or do something, and we have to figure out an exit plan quick. And it's just that anxiety of, are they here yet? Knowing that they're about to run up the stairs and kick down your door, and you just have this tiny little window of time to save yourself. You can imagine the anxiety of that. So that's how it started. That's the pattern that I started to notice because it was almost every single night I was having that exact same tone or scenario of dream. I do want to say too, prior to this, my dreams took a very dark turn. Again, it was this interesting juxtaposition where it was like sunshine and rainbows and like clear joy and all these gorgeous things in my waking life, and then I'd go to sleep and witness absolute carnage. It was a challenge for me to understand. As this kept going on, I kept getting more and more wary because I hadn't really experienced this before, where there was such a deliberate pattern. And if there was a deliberate pattern happening that many times in a row, it started to kind of cue me in that maybe there is a message here, or maybe there's something that I should be paying more attention to. What I did was I asked my guides for help. I spoke to them. I said, hey, I don't really know what's up with these dreams. Can you guys help me out? Can you let me know what's going on? And when I say my guides, I mean the team of beings, people, entities, whatever you want to call. I feel like we all have a team of guides, so to speak. I think it's comprised of people that we knew in this lifetime that passed, people that knew us that maybe passed before we were born, and maybe even people that we've been traveling lifetimes with. And these are, I think, the people or the spirits that walk with us. I think that this is what we're referring to when we say we have guardian angels or, people watching over us, etc., etc. So I reached out to my spirit team and I was on my own separate journey with connecting with them. They really showed up for me with Reiki. I think I had such a lovely relationship with them. And I was kind of like, what the is going on? Can you guys let me know? So we would have these conversations where I would ask them, please help me understand. And understand I did, because I ended up having a dream that told me exactly what was going on. And this is why I knew that this was an attack of some sort. So let me explain the dream to you. So in this dream, I was walking behind my apartment at the time. It was a walk I would go on all the time. So I was walking behind my apartment and there was a man in front of me who I've never seen before. And I saw his face clear as day. Let me say something right here. I know that people say it's not possible to see faces who you've never seen before in dreams. Bull. I don't know. I'm sorry. I just don't think I believe that. I see people in dreams, Technicolor 4K detail I've never seen before. It is entirely possible because I think there's a difference. I feel like there's your regular dreams, which is kind of like a mashup of the things that you see, your subconscious, the things you hear, the things you see but don't even register. I get that. But I feel as though there are other types of dreams you can have. You can have prophetic dreams, you can have visions, you can have past life memories. I don't think this was a regular dream because I saw that man's face clear as day, had no idea who he was. I've never seen him before. I remember he was a brown man, and it was just, in my dream, it was just like any stranger that I see on the sidewalk. So I went like this and I gave him a smile because he turned around to look at me and he didn't smile back. Actually, he had kind of like a weird, sinister kind of energy, which I remember in the dream kind of took me aback because I was like, oh, listen, I'm a little lady. My guard is always up. When I'm walking by anyone on the street, I'm feeling them out and sussing them out. And if anyone has that type of vibe for me, baby, I'm crossing the sidewalk. So I remember kind of feeling like, ooh, okay. And before I could cross to the other side of the road, he picks up some dirt. There was like some loose dirt, not soil, like dust, like dirt, dust. He picks up some loose dirt and throws it on my feet.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
I wake up instantly and I'm like, oh, someone is coming for me. How clear could that message be?
Baby, you can't read the dog.
Now, maybe if you're listening, you're like, okay, that's a reach or you don't understand. But if you know, you know. That was a very pointed dream. And it was very, very clear to me that there was somebody, something, someone energetically that was coming for me, consciously, subconsciously, deliberately, I don't know. Didn't even matter because the result was the same. That dream told me everything I needed to know. I won't lie, you guys, that freaked me the out. I was like, oh, hold on. I've really never dealt with anyone. Trust me, I've dealt with people trying me IRL. I've dealt with my fair share of IRL demons. I've actually dated quite a few. However, spiritually, no one comes for me like that. And I just felt a couple things. One, I felt kind of freaked out because who the is that? Another thing was I felt pretty grateful, honestly. There is a saying or there's a belief where I'm from, where my family's from, I'm Jamaican, which is that if someone is trying you spiritually and you find out early enough, it's like crosses brook, like it's done. Whatever it is they try to do cannot work to the full extent because now your awareness is on that situation. So I did feel pretty grateful that I was tipped off early enough to know that something was going on. But that didn't necessarily stop things because after this point, things kicked off into overdrive. And I mean, every single day, the night terrors were relentless and they kept getting more and more intense. And it was always that exact same scenario. I was being hunted. I was being chased. The pursuants were not here yet, but they were on the way. And I had a limited of time to get the out of there. Sometimes the dreams were even more intense where I was actually captured. Sometimes I'm driving and I do not know how to drive. I'm a gay that does not know how to drive yet.
You're a virgin who can't drive.
I would be like driving, trying to maneuver a car and I'm like, oh my goodness. It was very intense. I've had dreams where I've been shot. I've had dreams where I've seen people murdered. It was a lot and it was very, very alarming for me. It started to get to the point where I was almost scared to go to sleep. I want to give you guys a couple of examples of dreams that are like embedded in my mind during this attack, so to speak. And then we're going to talk about what I did to help myself get out of it and my theories of why that even happened in the first place. So this dream that I had, to be honest, whenever I think back at it, I feel as though this is a past life memory. It does not feel like a dream to me. This is what happened. In the dream, we were hiding from, I want to say the government, the militia. It's like there was a team of government sanctioned people that were coming to raid the houses and look for people like me. I don't remember what I looked like, however. There was no mirror or anything like that, so I don't know what I looked like. What I do know is that there was a family that was housing me, that was willing to hide me and try to protect me. So it's like this. Where they hid me was, it's like, you know when you go down into somebody's basement and there's a set of stairs? As you were walking down the stairs, there was a cabinet right above the stairs. I remember that this was a very small cabinet and that I was kind of folded up and smushed, and they put me in that cabinet and locked it. As I was in that cabinet, I heard the army, the militia, the whoever kick down the door. They're like demanding the people that are housing me. I don't remember the language, I don't remember anything, but I just remember they were looking for me. And I don't know if they were looking for me specifically or looking for people like me, but they were raiding the house. They start going down the basement door, and through the tiny little crack, I'm literally seeing these armed men, these armed army men bolt down the stairs. I'm hearing details, like I'm hearing the chirp of the walkie-talkie. I'm hearing the boots. I'm hearing them stomp through the house. I'm hearing them turn this house around. The fear and the panic I cannot even describe to you, because I was just so terrified of the moment that they would rip open those cabinet doors and find me. One thing that would happen in these dreams though is when the anxiety got too much, I would wake up. So before, and usually, sometimes it didn't go that way, but in this dream in particular, before anything could actually happen to me, I woke up. One thing that stuck out to me that actually kind of really f***ed me up for the rest of the day is as I woke up, I remembered what that cabinet looked like, and that cabinet was so tiny. That's why they thought to hide me there, because it would be next to impossible for anyone to fit. And that made me think two things. How small was I and how old was I that I was able to actually fit in that? Terrifying, terrifying stuff. I will never forget that dream. Another dream that I had, content warning death. So as I mentioned, we were living beside this family that were very, very abusive to their children, and the dad was very, very abusive to the mom. It was a horrible situation, and they were even abusive to us, and it was just a lot. Now, anyone that knows me knows that home invasion is like one of my worst fears. It is so scary to me to think that someone can break into your home and have any intention in doing so. And so that's exactly what happened in this dream. So in this dream, our neighbor was trying to get in the house, and for some reason the door is unlocked, and we saw the door start to open. And so my friend and I threw ourselves against the door to try to block it and close it enough so that we can lock it and keep him out. He is pushing back against us with all his might, trying to wiggle himself into the apartment. Eventually, he overpowers us. The door swings open. We are horrified. I am terrified. I am terrified. This is the fabric of my nightmares, that this demon man would find himself in my house like this. He opens the door and he's holding his baby. The baby at this time I think was about 2, so she was a toddler. As we were watching in complete shock and horror, he starts laughing and has this very kind of nonchalant attitude about him. And he goes, "I don't know why you guys are so scared. I don't know why you guys are so upset." And he looks at me and he goes, "I just wanted to ask if you'd watch the baby." He throws his child, holds her by the ankle, throws her over to me. I catch her. She's dead. I'm holding a dead baby. I screamed so loud, I woke myself up. The energy in my room, there was something in my room, I remember, because my cat was in there with me. I actually went and got him, brought him back to the bed to help me kind of clear out the energy in the room. Terrifying. It took me a sec to even be able to go back to sleep. I actually hate talking about this dream because I don't know why I had to see that, why I had to experience that. It's so sinister, it's so terrifying. So just to kind of give you a tone of what was happening, it was very direct, targeted attacks, and it was draining me. It was draining me in my waking days, and that's when I'm like, okay, enough has to be enough. I need to figure something out. So this is how I finally got things to stop. The first thing that happened was I started getting less scared and more aware. I'm very analytical and logical, and after I felt my emotions is where I'm able to hunker down and really plan. So I thought to myself, all right, things usually boil down to 50-50, right? The circumstances will be complex, the factors will be complex, but the outcome is usually one of two things. So in this case, it's going to stop or it's not going to stop. So I first of all had to make peace with that because I'm not in control here. There are things that I can work on. There are things that I can use to help myself. However, if this is supposed to be happening for some reason, there's really nothing I can do about that. So as uncomfortable as that thought was, I had to get familiar with the fact that it was really one or the other, and I had to kind of work on what I can work on, see if I could change the outcome, but understand that I had to really release the illusion of control here because this was clearly a little bit beyond me. While I had that thought, I also had to really hunker down and protect myself because I knew that there was something nefarious going on, and I knew that it was not my destiny to be under anybody's thumb. And so something had to give, and I was aware of that, but I still just had to be realistic with my circumstances. So that's where I started mentally. I kept speaking to my guides. I kept asking them for help. I would do Reiki. I would flood the room with Reiki. That was a practice that I started to have right when the started. Even when I was sleeping over at my boyfriend's house, I'd flood his room with Reiki. I'd be freaking him out because it'd be like, oh, like, not to alarm you, but there's something living in your roof, or there was something in your basement. Or I was just being able, I was really, I got very sharp in this period of time. I was very, very sensitive to any type of energies. And in this time, I was able to decipher if something was nefarious, if something was trying to scare us, or something was just there, or something was in transit. I feel like it can really be any one of the sort. I would flood the room with Reiki before bed, and I would even flood the house with Reiki, and I would start a very deliberate protective prayer practice before sleeping, when I woke up. So I started to realize that I needed to pay more attention to my subconscious mind and what was happening as I was sleeping. The thing that ultimately helped me to stop this was playing frequencies as I slept. That changed my whole life. And it was so funny because I couldn't share my Spotify Wrapped that year because it was literally all binaural beats and frequencies and like 438 hertz. I was listening to vibrations, frequencies all throughout the night, the love frequency, all of that stuff. And that is what ultimately helped me to break that pattern. It was not possible for whatever it was that was coming for me to exist in that type of environment. And so the energy started to taper off. Thank God. As I said, this was during the summertime, so it was, I'd say, maybe 3-4 straight months of this before the energy finally waned off and whatever it was over with. Here are my theories on what actually happened, and to be honest, to this day, I still don't know entirely everything. I don't know if I'll ever know, but I have a couple of working theories. So my first theory was that there was a combination of energy being sent my way. Not only was I dealing with the neighbor and all of that was happening, they had extremely hard feelings towards us. They hated that we would try to interfere with their abuse of their children. They hated that we would try to advocate for the children. And there was a lot of hateful energy being sent our way. So I feel as though a combination of energy from that. I also had left a very abusive partner who I know was actively spiritually pursuing or spiritually, I guess, trying to hoover around me. And I could feel them kind of on the peripheral of my energy as well. So I thought it could be a combination of that. I had a very nasty fallout with my family in the aftermath of me being outed and being basically excommunicated. So again, a combination of energy I thought could have perhaps contributed to this. Another thing that I think played a pretty significant factor, and I'm gonna get a little woo-woo here for a sec. Our neighbor had a tether. He had a spiritual tether. And what I mean by that is that there was some type of entity attached to him that would loom in his apartment and it would spread itself out into the hallway. I know for a fact that this was a thing because I was not the only one who saw and felt it. In fact, my roommate and I were both kind of managing our feelings around this and our experiences around this individually. And then one day one of us brought it up and the other was like, oh my goodness, you saw that too? And it was like the ultimate affirmation that we were not losing our marbles, that there was actually an entity out in the hallway. Not only that, but both of our partners started to feel, see, and have their own experiences. You wanted to say something, babe?
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in right here to say that at this time, I wasn't really spiritually inclined, but at the beginning of us dating, when I would have to go up those stairs, it would always be dark and I hate lingering in that hallway. I'd always run up those stairs, literally literally, I'd take 2-3 steps at one time and shoot right up the stairs and literally leap down the stairs. Nobody would like hanging out there. It always just felt very sinister and dark, even during the daytime. When I first went to your house, I almost walked into their apartment, and looking back, I'm so mortified.
It actually reminded me of something too, which is that another reason why we know for sure we were not imagining this is that we had a hallway light in there, and the hallway light could never last more than 2 days. 2 days max, the light would blow. Brand new bulbs, it'd be changed weekly. At that point, every single time the light was out, it would blow. The darkness had to exist. Take from that what you will. What I do know is that that entity, it would hang out in the hall, it would hang out on the stairs, it would literally leach out from under his door and hang out in that common area, but it could not step a pinky toe in our apartment. That's what I do know. So at least we have a little bit of protection in that way. However, I do feel energetically it found its way into our atmosphere. And I feel as though perhaps that could have been a contributing factor to this attack. Some other theories that I have, which I kind of already touched on, was past life memories coming through. I had a bunch of very, not catastrophic, but very dramatic life-altering changes that were about to kick off after the summer. And I thought maybe this was one way the universe was preparing me for that. And the last theory that I had, which I really hope is not the case for their sake, is that this was some type of deliberate, targeted, conjured attack, which would actually be pretty nuts. I had also started watching Handmaid's Tale around this, and we had to cut that shit hella short. I had to watch maybe like one episode every week and a half because that, let's just say, was not helping and was actually giving my subconscious access to new sound bites and new things to fold into my dreams. Remember how I told you I could hear the chirp of the walkie-talkie? Yeah, thank you, Handmaid's Tale. That's where that came from. So everything I think mixed together was just a recipe for what ended up happening. So in the aftermath of this, I did go through a period of kind of distrust, kind of feeling like, is this truly over? I was very nervous to go to sleep. Like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna see? What's gonna happen? I kept on with my practice of playing my frequencies to sleep. I still do it to this day, and that was very, very helpful. I kept tapped in with my team. I stay prayed up. Those are the things that really helped me understand that, okay, this is finally, actually, truly, really over and done with. Every now and again, I do have a nightmare, but it is nothing like it was. The pattern isn't broken, thankfully, and the attack is over with. Through this period, I did experience a very renewed sense of strength in my spiritual discernment. Like I said, I grew very sharp to energy in this time, and I feel as though that skill still carries over and it helps me not only in my day-to-day, but also in my Reiki practice. That was a bonus. I also felt very protected by my spiritual team. I thought it was so cool that they were able to tip me off so early so that I was able to know what's happening and prepare accordingly, which I think played a hand in why this was all over and done with so quickly, because I had knowledge of what was happening. Somewhere in this process, either right before, right after, or even at some point during, I had a session with the amazing Jen Maramba. Please check her out. I'll put her information where you can find it. And we did an ancestral reading. This was monumental, one of the most absolutely life-changing, pivotal sessions that I've ever had. Very cool. I can barely even explain it. You have to really experience it for yourself. Through this journey with her, I was introduced and I actually met and saw a couple of my ancestors and a couple of the people that were walking with me on my spirit team. So now I had someone who I recognized by name, who I recognized through energy, who I could call upon by their name. And that was a very, very helpful situation as well. It helped me feel so safe, so protected. I would ask him to stand by my bed if I was scared, and instantly the anxiety and the stress would start to melt away. So that was a really beautiful thing that came out of this as well. That was the story of the summer of my spiritual attack. If you like that, let me know in the comments. Let me know through a rating or through a like. I'm trying out these different types of content, but I'm curious to see what resonates the most or what's the most interesting to you guys. Remember to check out my accompanying blog piece to this episode at thereiqueer.com/blog. You can check out the video for this podcast on YouTube. My channel is called ReiQueer. You can also check us out. This is just the audio version if that's better for you on wherever you listen to your podcast. So whether that be Spotify, Apple, you can find me there at the ReiQueer Pod. My Instagram is at the ReiQueer. Any questions that you have can be sent to chloe@thereiqueer.com. I had so much fun telling this story. I hope you like it. Shout out to Orion Rise Productions for filming and editing this video. If you'd like to book with me for a Reiki session, for equity consulting, for workshop facilitation, anything in that world, feel free to hit me up, chloe@thereiqueer.com through email. Until next time, everybody.